You're welcome once again from that wonderful music break, Anima Christie, Baba's favorite hymn. And again, I remind you to share this program so that others can also enjoy this. And to our listener on MixLR, stay tuned and enjoy the second part of this program. Earlier, we've welcomed and we've been listening to a very renowned professor, Commander of the Order of Niger, and also one-time Vice Chancellor of the Premier University, the University of Ibadan, a member of the Chapel of the Resurrection, and a whole lot more. We have in the house Emeritus Professor Ayo Banjo. And once again, we welcome you, Baba, to the program.
Thank you very
just
much.
as you've listened now to your favorite hymn, Anima Christie, which I also enjoy so much. I would like to know, what about this hymn? What draws your interest?
Well, apart from the score, from the music, it's the words really that attracted me. Soul of my Savior, sanctify my heart. And then it goes on like that. You know, I mean, it's a deeply prayerful hymn. And that, if there are 3 verses, and in every verse talks about something until he ends up by saying, I want to join the angels singing to you in heaven. You know, I mean, which is a Christian life journey, really. The song is dealing with. So it is, I'm not surprised that at the Cathedral, Christ Church Cathedral in Lagos, it is sung every Sunday after the distribution of the elements in the Eucharist service, because the Eucharist service has lifted you up to a level where only this kind of song can sustain you and sustain you for the whole of the next week. Yes. So I feel personally very deeply moved by this hymn, by the words. It's a prayer in song, really, and it's one of the most intensive prayers that I know that can be sung. Of course, it relates, as I said, usually to the Eucharist service, although it can be sung at any other time. I have other favorites which are appropriate to the season. If you ask me what's your favorite Christmas song, I will give you something else. If you ask me what's your favorite celebratory hymn, Christ is our cornerstone, on him of whom alone we build. It's also a moving thing, but addressing a different aspect of the Christian life.
Yes.
But this one, I think, is at the root of what Christianity is all about.
Yes. Thank you, sir. A little bit more in that area is, we spoke earlier about your upbringing, the son of a clergy and also the son of a teacher. Very two powerful profession, because to be son of one of that, it's even a very big task. Now, when your father is a teacher and is also a clergyman, especially in the Orthodox Church for that matter, then to me it's like you are coming from the strict of the strictest, if there is anything. You are coming from a box of religiosity and moral whatever. So I want to know if this had any impact in your faith, and also even in your career. The son of whom you are, which naturally Yoruba will say anyway, was this of any major impact?
I imagine so. I cannot fully assess the impact, because I was growing in it. I wasn't conscious of. I thought every family was like my own. You know, I mean, one remarkable thing about it also, you talked about strictness, but in my upbringing, there was no coercion. There was no coercion. I think, well, maybe my father thought the environment in which he was bringing us up will form us, and of course we watch him. I'm a hero worshipper of my father. I just thought he was a wonderful man. Well, wonderfully talented, a musician, a teacher, priest. But I suppose the absence of coercion comes from the fact that his first degree was in philosophy. He doesn't believe in. He would gather us together in the evening and we'll be discussing. We couldn't argue with him, but he listened to us, and and we saw we were dealing with an open mind. We admired him for that, and naturally we wanted to be like that too. But as for people who say, well, my father beat me, my father never laid his hand on me or on any of my siblings. He just expected us to do the right things. And, well, thank God, none of us rebelled for anything like that. Yeah, so, but going to church, going to chapel, as a little boy, I went with him to chapel of St. Andrew's College. And after he was ordained in 1940, I went with him occasionally to the church in town. And I related in my book an occasion when the organist didn't turn up. And he was there to preach the sermon. He was to take the service. And I was in the choir, of course. And I watched him from the chancery to the organ, back and forth, doing the work, not just of the priest, but also of the organist. And I said, to my young mind, this is wonderful, to be so accomplished. So, but, well, I'm prejudiced, of course. But that's what it is. Maybe he too was fortunate, because you could have a man like that and then have one of the children just rebel. But we didn't do that. We had the normal thing, prayer first thing every morning, prayer last thing in the evening, and we watched him. We inevitably were influenced by him, and that's what it is.
Thank you, sir. Before we go, I think it's good that we also discuss this. You've been a member of the Chapel of the Resurrection for about 54 years or more, and also within the university community. And I'm sure you've seen the relationship between the chapel and the university even till now. And of course, I have read of a major issue during your tenure as the Vice Chancellor, of the issue of the cross. Yoruba will say tamojuba. So I think I want to have a taste of that, and also to look at it from this aspect also, that what was the relationship of the chapel with the university in those days, and what led to the issue of the cross, and also your very, very I don't know what to use now, your reaction to that, which I can say it's a landmark in that aspect.
Well, thank you very much, Venerable. I have to compress this story, because really, it's something. It's something which led to all sorts of things. It led, for one thing, to a complete breakdown personal relationship between me and the minister. Before that, we used to be friends.
Wow.
Yes, and that's what the first shock that I had, that this man, almost like stoking the embers of trouble in you. I just couldn't believe it. Well, very briefly, inevitably, when University College Ibadan was set up on this site, inevitably, as I told you before, it was set up by the colonial government, and they brought their religion with it. I don't think anybody can blame them for that. They started the Chapel of the Resurrection. We fought a battle over that, but I think there's a truce at the moment. The people that chapel, they brought it here. And what they did was, all that area between the chapel, the mosque, the Catholic chapel, they were the grounds allocated to the Chapel of the Resurrection.
Wow.
And they've been cutting the casuarina trees. In fact, the thing was planted like a cross around there. But and of course the number of Muslims in the university, number was very small. Nobody argued, nobody, there was no deliberate effort to keep the number small. But when the number started to increase and they wanted a mosque, the Christians gave part of that land to build the first mosque. I'm not talking about the big one now. And they built a small mosque there because, as I said, the numbers were small. That was all right. The numbers were growing, and they thought they needed a bigger cross. And they built it. I was invited as Vice Chancellor to the opening, to the launch. And that's where I got one of the biggest shockers of my life as Vice Chancellor. I went there, and I was sitting next to Abiola. Abiola was sitting next to this very famous Ibadan Muslim, Ali Shekola. Thank you. I thought everything was all right. It was a large Muslim audience. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Abiola stood up and said, "I've heard what you have been doing in this place. You are victimizing the Muslims." I thought I wasn't hearing him. You are... In any case, next time I come to this campus, I don't want to see that cross there, because it's distracting people worshipping in the new mosque. And I said to myself, and then said to others later, when the foundation of that mosque was being done, the mosque was there. If they had a good architect, the cross was there. If you had a good architect and you instructed him, you didn't want to see the cross, it might have moved the thing for you. But to wait until you have built that mosque, and now you say, worshippers are distracted by the sight of the cross, and so remove the cross from there. If you like, move it closer to the chapel. We will pay for it. And I said to the minister, "You will pay for it? I've been begging you for money for this, for the labs, for all the places. You said you had no money, but now suddenly you have money
to move the cross."
Yes, to move the cross. Well, that angered him, I suppose. So the thing, after that outing, and well, God saved us, I think, as He always does. The pro-chancellor, Professor Yusufu, was a Muslim like them. And I think that was what they were praying for. That after they had roused the rabble, the pro-chancellor himself would then say, oh yes, I think you are right. And I've never seen the pro-chancellor so furious all my life. He stood up and he said, "I object to anybody coming here to tell us what we should do. By the grace of God, I'm the chairman of the council. And you have no right."
Wow.
I think it was their turn now to be shocked. You have no right to come here and tell us what we must do. But then the seed had been sown. The Muslim community in the university now started asking for one thing after another. And there was a point at which I said, okay, we don't want any more religious worships in the halls of residence, if that's going to. The Christians immediately obeyed. The Muslims carried on. So I ordered the director of us go and demolish all the things they put up in the halls of residence for worship. Then they cried to Lagos again. Look, this man hates Muslims. He has destroyed our. So that's really. There are rumors and there must be true stories about the origin of all of this. But let me put it as mildly as I can by saying that people have been saying that the University of Ibadan is a Christian university. And we want to change it. We want to change it to being a Muslim university. And, well, this is where rumors are that a lot of money flowed in from Saudi Arabia. This is what I heard. And the money was used to fund the problems we were having in the university. As for this, as for that. When I thought, well, we had to accommodate them somehow. They said, okay, well, build a wall to cover the cross so we won't see it when we are worshiping. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I will build a dwarf wall, which is what is there now. That's, to quote myself, I don't want to go down in history as the vice chancellor who built the wall, the wall of intolerance in the University of Ibadan. It didn't satisfy them. So, but that's what I said. Put your own equivalent of the cross up, if you like. That's how they now have their own thing there. Yeah, but this business, I heard from other sources. I don't think I should be saying it here. Concrete evidence that there was influence from outside this country to change the complexion of the university. And I dare say it's still going on, and it's moved now to ISI. And I think it's the same thing that is happening there, you know. ISI is ISI Christian place. It shouldn't be a Christian place, and all that kind of thing. I don't know. I had, as I said, one big price that I had to pay for this was to lose the friendship of the minister, who then, because he found me a little incalcitrant, did everything to remove me. When he didn't succeed, the visitation came shortly after this episode, and he said to himself, yeah, this man must go. He was telling people who are telling me, he didn't know. I'm going to get rid of that kafiri in UI. And the visitation came. The first thing they were talking about was the cross, which is outside their terms of reference. And the commissioner of police said, don't bring trouble to Western region. Face your terms of reference. So they subsided a little bit. But at the end of their investigations and so on, they inserted something. A whole chapter headed the vice chancellor, Professor Ayo Banjo, and started talking all kinds of strange things, which had not been discussed, because I was there. One good thing they did was they said, okay, you sit and listen, because some members of staff of the university had their own grouse, and they might come and just tell lies against the vice chancellor. They said, you sit there and tell us. And when they even see you, they won't tell lies. I admire them for that. But after the thing had finished, they went and wrote something. I think they ended by saying that I should be warned. So, as it happened, I knew one or two members of the panel. So I asked him, so you did this in my back? You stabbed me in the back? He said, we did not discuss anything like what you are reading in the report. And what happened was that the minister invited the chairman of the visitation to come to the ministry and to doctor the report. Okay. Then I was told that this man, whom I knew him, and in fact we shared some friends in Lagos, he said, we ransacked the bursary looking for evidence that you have stolen something. When we couldn't find it, this man who was talking to me, he's an accountant, said they sent me to London to go and check the books of the NUC.
Wow. To
see whether you have fiddled with the and the man then said to me, I don't know whether he said it to his colleagues, he said to me that he was amazed that he got there. And as soon as he mentioned my name and that he said, Banjo. He never took one penny. The other vice chancellors, when they are coming, they say, hire a car from the funds of our university to meet us at the airport. Some even say, let the car stay with us until we go. And the funds of the university were that this man, if he came on a private visit to London, we just saw him maybe a few days before he left to say that he wanted to say hello. That it's one man. So they didn't find a way there. So they had to first, they said I allowed somebody to go on leave, and I was protecting them from coming to give evidence, which is again untrue. So, and the council, of course, said that all that was not true. So that's number two, they failed there. Then I think the minister said to himself, in any case, he has a 4-year term. Let's sit it out. After 4 years, we'll chuck him out. So the end of my term came. Nothing was heard from the government about progress. Then after a while, the chairman contacted Lagos and said, this man is going to finish. Aren't you going to appoint or do something? They still didn't do something. So council passed a unanimous resolution saying they wanted me for a second term, which had never happened before. And then the ministry just didn't respond to that. So I hear that some people that I don't even know, they said they were ex-generals, but there's one former head of state who intervened. I gather they went to Babangida, who was the president, and said to him, they posed two questions. They said, well, they'd come because they'd been told that the minister, who is Muslim, is trying to persecute the vice chancellor in the place. And Babangida said, of course, that can't be. It's not true. But the minister had gone to Babangida to say, in fact, we had two candidates for the position of vice chancellor of Ibadan, that Babangida could take one of them. And they were still dilly-dallying that when this former head of state intervened, went, I don't know what transpired between them. After a while, this former head of state sent a friend of mine in this university to bring me back. I'd never been to Ottawa or any of these places before. And this friend of mine in the university was whether a classmate or just a schoolmate of the former head of state. So we got there. And we were then told that the minister was coming to join the meeting. The secretary of NUC was there, the minister was coming, and I was there. The man who brought me, of course, was not there. It was this man. So we sat there. They took their time. They were about 1 hour late. And I was about to say, well, you've done your best. You can't do any more. I have to go home. Then we heard the sound of a car pulling in. And the minister and the NUC executive secretary then walked in and sat down. And then the minister started spinning what to me? It's a string of lies. I can't imagine a big man telling lies like that. And I wanted to, at one point I said, but that's not true. And the former head of state said, I said, but what he's saying is not true. Anyway, he went on and on. And then he said to the former head of state, well, a man like you can't show an interest in this matter and we ignore it. He put his hand in his barriga and brought out a letter and gave it to the former head of state. He looked at it and saw that it was addressed to me. So he passed the letter to me and I opened it. It was my letter of reappointment of second term. Wow. And I was told later on that Babangida, some people, these soldiers, they mentioned some of them, that this minister you are protecting, is he an ex-serviceman? Did he fight in the Civil War? They said, okay, if you give him, if he doesn't deliver that letter to this man by such and such a date, you must get rid of him. So he made sure that he brought it with his own hand and gave it to this man, and I read it. So he can go back and tell Babangida he has received the letter by such and such a date. So that's how that episode, wow. that's how it closed, and that's how I managed to get a second term. I had already packed, of course, when I saw what was happening, and even the pro-chancellor, Chiroma, Alhaji Chiroma, fine gentleman, said, I like the way you are taking it, but that's what they are doing in Lagos. I don't understand. But I told my wife, I said, pack. We will look for a house in Ibadan. But whatever the minister can do to me, he cannot take my professorship away. He can take the vice chancellorship, that's okay. He cannot take my professorship away. I will be here, I will continue. Then my friends in Lagos said, don't leave. Don't leave the vice chancellor's lodge, because this man will go back and say, the man has even given up the job, but what are you worrying about? So at there, my deputy vice chancellor, we had only one at that time. I said, carry on. So he was running the university for some time before this episode I described to you happened between me and the minister. And we never said a word to each other again. We celebrated what was it now? The 40th anniversary of UI. He didn't show up. He didn't send anybody. He didn't do anything. The Oba of Benin was the chancellor. He was so amazed and disappointed that after the 17th of November convocations, he went to Lagos. He said, he told me that later. He said, went to Lagos, we went to Babangida. What crime did the vice chancellor commit? Why did you not even say anything? We celebrate 40th. Shortly after, ABU celebrated, I think, 25th or something, and they showered money on them. So the vice said, oh, he found a way out to do it. I don't know anything about it. And at the same time, the minister was telling other people that Babangida had told him to carry on and advertise the post. And he denied that he never did the thing. So, but he saw the quality of people who are, and God knows that I didn't send anybody to go and fight for me. In fact, I can tell you that I have very close friends in the University of Ibadan. I never went to lobby with them to be vice chancellor or anything. First time, second time. I came to the university praying God that one day I should be a professor. And that day, my ambition was really, all the other things like being head of department, dean of, all these are, not the real thing. So I would have packed out, and the groups were half packed in the vice chancellor's lodge. I told my wife, look, we are going. This is what is happening. And then friends from Lagos said, don't go yet, don't go, stay there, because if you go, it's a literal way of saying that the place is vacant. There's vacancy in the place. So I don't know, and I had hoped that after I had experienced what I had experienced, that there would be there was nothing like religious difficulty in this place until this episode. We had good Muslim in fact, one of the professors who led a delegation of students to the minister's office in Lagos to complain about me, and the minister called me, didn't say what he was calling me for, but I carried the file of all these things that had been happening. When I got there, I was confronted with the sight of students from the University of Ibadan who had come to complain again. And I said, what is complaint? Where is their letter? Did they send their letter through me? No. Yeah, he said he would read excerpts from the... Then he said I should sit down with the students and we should discuss it. And I said, Minister, you are a vice chancellor before yourself. How would you feel somebody calling you to come and argue with your students? That is, I'm not prepared to do that. Now the press somehow got wind of what happened and put it in the paper. And then the minister said I had come with a hidden microphone. And I said, well, if he said I had come with a hidden microphone, it means everything that was reported was true. So I wasn't telling a lie. But anyway, I didn't even know how the matter got to the press. And it went on. This is a very, very bad episode. He had a plan. He was sure he would execute it. But God had a completely different plan. And God's plan was the one which came to pass.
Glory be to God. It's been a wonderful time. Before we go, our dear listeners and viewers, I will still ask for one more thing, and that will be what you desire to tell us. Either just a word of advice or encouragement to our listeners, to our viewers, who I'm sure have been anticipating this episode in particular.
Well, I think from my discussions with you over the past hour or so, it should be clear what I want. I want a good educational system. I want a good leadership system. And I want what everybody of my age and position wants. I want this country to fulfill its destiny. But I think it's running away from that destiny at the moment. The church can help us to pray. The church itself should reform itself. I've spoken to a whole cardinal about this. That this jamboree that you call CAN, don't you have any principles? Don't you? If I woke up tomorrow morning and said, come to me, I've got the solution to all your problems, you will be millionaires next year and so on, and I register with Khan. Khan will admit me. So I said, what is this? You see what? And the Archbishop said to me, I am very unhappy about it. But why do you continue? So the church must reform itself before it can reform Nigeria. That's one thing. The church, to go back to the education thing, when education was run by the missionaries, even the Muslim missionaries, they were producing good people. But when the church was running the education, everything was all right. There was no discrimination of any kind. That is, everybody was happy. We were aiming at this global standards. But now the church itself is at war against itself. Open arguments between leaders of churches. And you go to the, I call it the straight church, and you hear a sermon, taken from the Bible, in accordance with the Bible. And then you go to another place called a church. They don't even call it church anymore. They call it theater. They don't have chanceries anymore. They operate from a stage. The whole thing is show business now. There's no holy part of. I don't know, but from what I see, everybody is sitting like the audience. And then there's the
performer.
Yes. And it's something that amazes me, that the sacredness of the religion is being taken out of it. And people are now interpreting the Bible any way they like, provided they keep the congregation happy and keep them coming. Well, I don't know what we can do about this, because religion is one of the strongest emotions that any human being can have. And those people are going there for that very reason, because they think they have problems which are insoluble, but can never be insoluble to God. But between them and God stands this priest, so-called, who's telling them other things. I had to talk to the Diocese of Ibadan North, and I told them, the Archbishop himself was there. I said the church came to Nigeria to educate, and that's why, next to every church you have a school. They came to educate, to set people's minds free, and so on. I said, but now the church is actively promoting superstition. Very actively. Some will say, if you touch my handkerchief, you are all right. That sort of thing. I'm promoting all kinds of theories. That is sending us back. It's sending us back because the church in Nigeria, as far as I can see, maybe because my father combined teaching with thing, is to bring up, to educate. So you don't just educate the children in the classrooms. So you educate their parents when they come to church. And this was so throughout my own childhood. And now I don't know what to think. There are churches where they never even say the Lord's Prayer. They don't say not to talk about the creed or anything.
Some hardly read the Bible.
Some even say they don't recognize Christmas. I mean, I don't know what we can do about it, because it's as I said at one point in what we were saying later on, this is democracy running crazy. Why should you be a venerable archdeacon and I cannot pronounce myself venerable archdeacon tomorrow? freedom of action, freedom of speech. But you have to earn these positions. And there is an apostolic tradition. I shouldn't be telling you this from Peter. Anybody, any church whose head is not in the apostolic succession is doubtful, you know. But this is what we are getting.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a very long one and a wonderful one indeed. And we want to appreciate our listeners for staying tuned even to this time. We have a very, very huge appreciation to tender and to give to our Revered Father, former Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, and Pro-Chancellors of so many other universities in the past, and very importantly, they are a member of Chapel of the Resurrection. We can't appreciate you enough for giving us this time. We know that at this age, having 2 hours of your time, it's very precious. The time you spent with us and also on the program, we sincerely appreciate it. And we cherish this time because we know you brought not only history, and you've also given us a cause for the future. We thank you so much, sir. God bless you. And we hope that even on another series, we are still going to bring you back, for we know that by the grace of God, you are still with us. We will still celebrate your 90th birthday.
Thank you very much.
Grace and mercy of God. And as I told your dear friend, Professor Ayo Banjo, when he was here on the program, that possibly we are bringing two of you together one day.
That will be excellent.
To have an interview with special twin who didn't share the same womb. So we appreciate this. And to our listeners and viewers, we thank you for staying tuned. Join us on Friday when we are going to have another special series of stories behind hymns on Friday by 5 in the evening. Remember, the Chapel of the Resurrection is open for service, but only to those that are permitted by the government order for COVID-19 resumption. That is, those between the age of 15 to 60. Others can join us on our platform on Facebook, YouTube, and also on our MixLR to enjoy the service. And 90.1 FM Space FM every Sunday by 10 a.m. By 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Sunday morning. Our prayer meeting on Wednesday by 5 in the evening. Thank you for staying tuned. Send your comment on this program. Send us email chapeluionline@gmail.com. So we'll come your way another time. I'm your host, Oluwalusi Titus Mabatunde. Thank you for joining us.